Middle, that was great. That was just awesome. All good? All right, on a count of three, give a hoot, holler, and wave, and just excited for the people who are at home. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right, welcome to everyone. So glad that you're here. Hello to everyone who is online and with us. Today we're starting a new series. It is one that kind of caught our eye, and we thought it would be good to be looking at. So without further ado, we're going to plug in our video here, and we're going to watch all together. It is coming on the screens shortly. When you're ready, go ahead and press play.
I'm like, calm down, you're fine. And then you just keep saying that faster and faster.
I should not be this worried about it.
It gave me a lot of anxiety not knowing what to even do in high school.
Stress is a normal part of life when we are under pressure in new and demanding circumstances. That's a good thing because it helps us adapt when it matters most. There are many reasons why we may feel a little bit of anxiety in today's world. Anxiety is one of the emotions that doesn't feel great, like sadness or anger or fear. Anxiety is unpleasant, but it plays an important role in our lives. We are going to feel anxiety from time to time in our lives, but we don't have to feel anxious about feeling anxious. Everyone experiences anxiety.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I do feel anxious.
I'm anxious all the time.
I think just the overall pressure to do very well in a lot of different categories.
Homework.
For AP classes, for honors and all that.
Once that test comes in front of me, everything blanks and I'm like, oh gosh.
Reading out loud in class.
Getting ready for college.
Did you get in? Have you sent the things? And
Accumulates, it's just stress. These relationships can cause a lot of anxiety.
Making friends.
Relationships with parents.
Social media, I blame myself too. We put the best parts of ourselves on social media. And if you spend a lot of time looking at that and kind of indoctrinating yourself that that's how life is, then you kind of blame yourself for a lot of the bad things that happen.
Well, a lot of people were very competitive with each other.
You want to have this certain body or you want to have this certain amount of money.
Growing up, I definitely didn't have a lot of the things that I wanted, the things that I wore or even school supplies.
I was up all night trying to think, is this the right thing to wear? What do freshmen wear?
I had a ton of acne on my face, and I felt like nobody else did in my school and especially in my friend group. I felt like that's all that people were looking at.
I just have really racing thoughts. My thoughts just move really quickly to all the different fears.
And a lot of times it's not even something that would happen. It's just your anxious brain just coming up with scenarios.
It's everything's closing in on you. And you can't do anything, you're worried about what's gonna happen.
If anyone talks to me, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. I just focus on what I'm anxious about, and I can't think about anything else.
Sometimes it can affect your physical body. You can have a hard time breathing.
You're breathing, I guess. It kind of bottles up and it freaks you out.
I just can't breathe. I can't get a full breath in.
Sometimes it's my chest is tight. Other times it's I'm burning a hole in my stomach.
If you feel like you're on a roller coaster and it's right when you're at the very, very top and you feel like your stomach is up in your chest and you're about to fall.
Having 1,000 cups of coffee in your body, which you can imagine is a little much.
They're a little more sweaty than usual. You don't want anyone to notice, and you kind of just think that everyone's looking at you and you're a weirdo and no one's gonna like you because you're freaking out.
That's kind of what it feels like, at least for me.
It's really hard to explain.
I, for a long time, felt like I was the only one who felt that way. And when I started talking to my friends about it, they were like, oh, I actually feel the same way.
A lot of people deal with that problem.
I mean, I know, at least with me and my friends, we would all experience it, and we'd just talk about it a little bit, what's going on, what we're worried about.
Saying what is making me anxious already feels better. Just put it out there. Just use what words you can, and you guys can just start talking about it. Because if you keep it inside, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and you just it gets bigger and bigger. But again, if you say it out loud, it's not as scary.
A lot of people go through it. As cheesy as it sounds, you're not alone. A lot of people have anxiety.
All right, so we're talking anxiety. Hold on, I need to grab a copy of this. If you'd be so kind, can you grab the paper that's underneath you? I know you're like, oh, Taylor, I can't believe you're making me write the day before school. Are you kidding me? You also have a writing utensil underneath you, and yes, they work. You also have a hard surface underneath you, and yes, it works. It works if you work it. What I really like about Diane's activity was that it felt weird at first, right? You're like, really? Paper bag? And then the more you got into it, it was like, oh, but it's a challenge, it's fun. This thing in your hand is a pen. Some of you have not been using it because you've been hybrid or remote. It works if you work it. A lot of things we'll do today that we talk about today, the skills and strategies and the things today work if you work it. Okay? What I would like you to say before we go any farther is, I'm not alone. On a count of 3, please say it back to me. I'm not alone. 1, 2, 3. Please give me like a thumb meter on how that movie we just watched of other youth identified with you. Thumbs up is like, I totally feel that sometimes. Thumb sideways is like, I kind of feel that. And thumbs down is like, I'm so confident I got this. Go ahead, give me a thumb meter. Okay, I've got them all over the board. That's totally fine. Go ahead and put your thumbs down. Thank you, I appreciate that. This was a series that, to me, stuck out to me when we were looking at places we could go as a youth group. This series only works if you work it. If you're someone who's like, I don't want to deal with that, things that you're kind of feeling right now and manifesting, they won't get fixed. They won't get fixed. And we can't do it without God. We can't. Everyone say it one more time. I'm not alone. Thank you. I'm not alone. People who are online, you are not alone. This is for everyone. What I really love about that video in particular, and it's kind of like the thing that's kind of launching out for this whole series, is this is called Faith in an Anxious World. The world is anxious. We all deal with their own anxiety. For number 1, could you give it a name? Write down the word anxiety. A-N-X-I-E-T-Y. Anxiety. There, we named it. That's the first step. I know, it's like, what, really? Not very. I can't tell you, watching that video, for me, made me breathe better. I don't know what it was, but something about just being able to see other people and breathe that in. I'm not alone. Everyone say it one more time. I'm not alone. Go ahead and say it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I was not convinced. One more time. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I got to tell you, my anxiety, before we get up, and I'm sure that the leaders can all say this as well, before we actually teach, our anxiety goes way up and we have to pray because we're like, dear God, help me, right? When we're about to go up here. I will tell you that the anxiety, and I know that Diane and Becky, got this, but as a parent, I have been thinking more anxious thoughts than I had previously. As a teacher, I was dreaming last night about going back to school, but I was a student, right? All my teacher friends were like, heck yeah, that's what we do. We dream about you guys, and we're like, how are they going to deal? How are they? Becky had mentioned that we think about you when you're not here. We do. We love you that big to everyone. Seriously, we love you. We think about you. Not that you give us anxious thoughts all the time, but that is why Diane's like, yeah. So the first thing I want you to kind of think first is that we all experience anxiety. All of us do. If anyone says that they're 100% good, don't even touch that. Don't even go there. They've got their own things to unpack later. So I wanted to walk through a couple scriptures that you might have seen, but my kind of anchoring question I have is, where's God in all of this? Really? Where's God? We're going to read some scriptures that kind of show examples of this happening. But the really big question I have is you hear from the youth leaders, God's with you, I'm not alone. And you're like, yeah, but what does that look like? So here's one scripture story. And I'm going to read this. This is from Mark. That's the gospel. It says, right then, Jesus made his disciples get into a boat and go ahead to the other side of the lake toward Bethsaida when he dismissed the crowd. After saying goodbye to them, Jesus saying goodbye for a little bit, just anxiety, Jesus went up on a mountain to pray. Evening came and the boat was in the middle of the lake, but he was alone on the land. Raise your hand if you know where this story is going. Raise your hand if you know. Not everyone? Okay, that's okay. Put your hands down if you don't know. The boat was in the middle of the lake, but he was alone on land. He saw his disciples struggling. They were trying to row forward, but the wind was blowing against them. By the way, these are all fishermen, so hard wind. Very early in the morning, he came to them walking on the lake. Sorry, that's cause for pause right there. Walking on the lake. Big deal. He intended to pass by them. Jesus was just going to go, hey guys, I'll meet you on the other side. Just saying. He intended to pass by them. When they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost, and they screamed. Can everyone give me like a fake kind of scream? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, nice, very nice. Ah! Yeah. They thought it was a ghost, and he screamed. Is that cause for anxiety? Yes, that is cause for anxiety. Seeing him was terrifying to all of them. Just then he spoke to them, be encouraged, it's me, don't be afraid. He got into the boat, and the wind settled down. His disciples were so baffled, they were beside themselves. What was so different? This is question number 2. What is different about Jesus' words and actions compared to the disciples? Think about it for 15 seconds, and if you have ideas, raise your hand. I'd be happy to call on you, but I know that some people are like, I don't like to talk in public, and that's fine too. But think about it, and you're going to hear from some other people. If you don't have your ideas, you'll borrow their own. Raise your hand if you've got ideas that you can kind of like put into it in a sentence. What's so different about Jesus' words compared to the disciples? I'm not calling Elena. I always call on Elena. Someone else. Someone be brave. Brave people. Take that ram by the horns. Fight the anxiety. Jordan Derrick, thank you so much for volunteering. What was so different? I'll just come for you. What was so different between Jesus and his disciples?
He was a lot more sure of everything Jesus was.
Definitely, right? That's definitely like a sign of confidence right there, right? I'm calling on Jordan because he's one of the oldest in the room, and he's kind of like, I'm sure that you guys all look up to the older ones as well in general, so that's why I just picked on him. I know. I love you, man. But yeah, he was much more confident, said be courageous, right? That means I'm going to get to call on all the older people. Bryn's next. Bryn, what's another thing? What was so different between these two responses? Go. Yeah, there's definitely a calmness. There's like that calm confidence. Excellent. While the disciples were kind of freaking out, right? So good. Also, can we just kind of pause for a second? The disciples went on this lake. Jesus went to pray. Where did Jesus go in this scenario? Think about it. And again, if you know the answer, this is actually the question number 3. But what did Jesus go in the midst of the disciples freaking out? That's a different story. We're getting there. It's like the next story. Don't you worry. We're getting there. In this story, Jesus was going to what? He was going to do a drive-by wave as they're rowing. Hey, guys. How you doing? Right? Where did Jesus end up? In the boat. He ended up in the boat. Go ahead and write that down if you want to. Number 3. He ended up in the boat with the disciples. Here's the first thing. Again, if it works, if you work it. When you're in anxiety, you have to imagine Jesus sitting in the boat with you. Right? Jesus isn't outside on shore going just a little closer. He does do that on occasion. But more often than not, when you're freaking out, he's in the boat next to you. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to wrap our heads around. It's just me. I'm alone. Everyone say, I'm not alone. On count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm not alone. Jesus is in the boat with me. All right, here comes the next story. That was what was so unusual about Jesus, that he was so calm and so confident. Here's the next one. Jesus steps into that unsteady boat. Mark 4, right then, later that day when evening came, Jesus said to them, let's cross the other side of the lake. They left the crowd, took him in the boat just as he was. Other boats followed along. Gale force winds arose. Can everyone give me like the gale force winds? Go ahead. Oh, yeah, much better. Thank you. All right. Gale force winds arose. The waves crashed against the side of the boat, so the boat was swamped. But Jesus was in the rear of the boat. We call that the stern, sleeping on a pillow. I'm sorry. Do the gale force winds again. Go ahead. This is Jordan, right? Jordan said he could sleep anywhere. Yeah. I'm sorry. Wake up, Jesus! Wake up! Don't you? They woke him up and said, Teacher, don't you care that we're drowning? He got up and gave orders to the wind and said to the lake, Silence, be still. The wind settled down and there was a great calm. There's that word again, calm. Jesus asked them, Why are you frightened? Do you not have faith yet? Overcome with awe, they said to each other, Who then is this? Even the wind and the sea obey him. So different, right? And their responses. Where was Jesus? In the boat. He's in your boat. You ever heard the phrase, whatever floats your boat? You've got your own little boats that you guys are swimming along on in life. You got your little, or Jesus is in the boat with you. All right? So now my question, what's making your boat unsteady? I don't know if you've ever been on a rowboat. I don't know if you've ever been on a regular boat. Whatever. This is not a share out loud time. Sorry, there will be time for that. Would we like break up into small groups and we'll talk about that when we get there. But what is making your boat feel unsteady lately? I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so to just jot some things down. This is, again, not to share. It works if you work it. Use that pen. If you're at home, I'm sorry you don't have a handout for yourself, but you might find a scrap sheet of paper, write this down, or have someone nearby. Maybe you text it to yourself or text it to somebody. What is making your boat feel unsteady lately? I'm going to try really hard to be quiet. All right, I got about half of the room is now looking up at least a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. If I see people are, and this is what I do in school as well, if I see people are like mostly working, not making eye contact, I don't pull the plug yet, because some of you are still thinking, and that's good to take your time on that. Everyone take one deep breath with me. Just practice with me. I'm not alone, right? Jesus is in the boat with me. I try to practice what I preach, right? What's making your boat feel unsteady lately? I'm just going to put that question out there. But then there's more questions to be asked after that. And so the question is where is God at work in the midst of that anxiety? And what I'm really interested, personally, what I'm really get interested about is what's that anxiety telling you? What's it telling you, right? So what's it telling you about, I don't know, my schedule and the pressure I'm under? What's your anxiety telling you about times when I'm beyond my comfort zone? I just called on 2 people. It might have been outside their comfort zone. They did awesome. Right? I'm super proud of them. I might call on some other people too. But what does your anxiety tell you about whether I'm eating or sleeping enough? I know this is kind of teacher talk, but Maslow has what's called the hierarchy of needs. In order to actually be listening as a student, you need to be well fed, you need to be well rested, you need to be like emotionally taken care of, mentally taken care of. If you don't have those 4 things, us teachers can't teach you anything. Seriously. Like teachers have to be able to be aware of these kinds of things. If you aren't taking care of yourself, how am I expected to teach you or you guys to be functional, loving human beings to each other, right? You got to take care of yourself. Whether I'm putting myself in dangerous situations, that's a scary one because sometimes you don't know you are. I love my nephew Arlo. He doesn't understand the danger of a car passing yet. That gives me anxiety. I'm sure everyone else has felt that way, right? You've got little siblings, you're like, stay away from the road, right? So sometimes we don't have the awareness of putting yourself in dangerous situations. So I want you to think for another 15, 20 seconds about one of those things in particular. Ooh, that's fun. I think it just did a learning curve here. Going back one. Okay. Sorry. But I want you to take another 15, 20 seconds to just kind of analyze one of those that you wrote down earlier. What are the things that are making your boat unsteady? If, for example, for me, I'll just kind of put myself on the spot. School, like school is one. I dreamt about it last night. What it's probably telling me is that I don't feel prepared enough, right? That's just me. For some reason, I don't feel prepared enough. I'll be fine once I get there. But if I get that anxiety, it might be telling me I forgot about the person who's in the boat with me, right? It might be making me not think about, oh, God says my grace is sufficient, right? It might be me putting pressure on myself to be delivering content instead of what's my role as a teacher. I'm saying this with Becky in the room and like bearing that man. I really hope you don't like project. I'm not. Anyways, all the teachers out there, this is me reflecting on myself. Sometimes I forget my role as a teacher, which is not necessarily to shove science content down your throat, but to teach you to be good human beings who happen to know science. Right? Sometimes I get on my high horse and forget about that. But I want you to take another 10 seconds or so. What do you think one of those things is telling you about yourself? All right, I'm going to start talking again. I was quiet for a little bit there. I try. I got to say, by the way, and I don't know why it's always like when I'm up here I have this thought, but I just look out and I'm very proud of you all over again. I don't know what it is, but love you guys a lot. So I'm sure that people have heard of this before. Actually, raise your hand if you've heard of the phrase coping strategies before. Okay, only about a third to a half of us. I was just curious. I didn't know about these until like they were actually given a name, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I've been like handing out like candy to people and be like, oh, try this, it's really fun. But there's things that are called coping strategies, right? These are things that we try to do to get rid of that pressure, we try to get rid of, reduce, or we try and tolerate the stress. Some examples, one that Shelby uses a lot whenever she feels anxious is she will count the colors in the room to kind of just like help her unplug. So she'll go Roy G. Biv, so she'll look for red exit side. She'll go for orange wall. She'll go for yellow DeWalt box in the back. And she'll like go through, and it just distracts you long enough. Anyone else have some cool ideas? Just the adults in the room that have coping strategies that want to share some that, go ahead, Jordan.
I work out.
Yeah, work out and go do some exercise. Sometimes you need to go walk it off or go do some work somewhere. Becky? Yep. Okay, cool. Diane, you got any in particular?
Just getting away by myself for a couple minutes and reading the Bible.
Yep.
When Jacob was very little, when he was 3 or 4, I don't know how he had so much anxiety, but he would get upset and he would bang his head against the wall. And he had trouble sleeping, and what they had him do at nighttime is we would start at the top of our head, and we would squeeze the muscles and then relax them. And then we would start with the shoulders and we would tighten up in the arms and the hands and then relax. And we went all the way down the body and then that relaxed him enough to be able to sleep.
Ooh, I'm going to try that. That sounds like fun. So Diane was sharing about, for the people who are online that might not have picked it up on the audio, Diane was sharing how when her kiddo got upset, he'd bang his head in the wall, and that it would be kind of imagine tightening different parts of your body and then relaxing them all the way through. So going and finding your own place to just kind of unplug and just kind of reset your brain, right? Those are all really good ones. I have been learning about the power of breathing, so I'm going to have you all breathe one more time with me. Ready? One. I'll give you two deep breaths. First one will be like, and then it'll be like, okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. There's one. Now one more. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And breathe out. Sometimes that is just enough to reset me, right? Get the oxygen in there and all that respiration happening. But those are all coping strategies. There's some other ones you can check out online. Not every coping strategy is for everyone, right? But find one that works for you, I guess is what I'll say, when you start to feel anxious. Another thought that we have for us is that anxiety doesn't have to get to the point of danger. Right? There are times when you guys kind of internalize that, and you might like punch a wall. I'm not going to say anyone in particular, but I know people who do that. Some people just get really upset. They have to scream. They have to go and hit something. They have to go and it doesn't have to get there. It doesn't have to, right? It's kind of like if how easy it is to start a ball rolling down a hill when you're at the top of the hill and you could just reach out and stop it, right? It's a lot harder to predict when it's at the bottom of it. You got to see where I'm getting at, right? Like think about an avalanche, right? It's easier to stop or avoid at the top when it's little compared to when it gets really big. Anxiety doesn't have to get us to that dangerous point. It doesn't have to. And the last thing I'm going to park on for right now, I don't know how much time we'll get for a small group time, and don't panic if you're like, oh, I can't do that. You guys will be fine. But anxiety doesn't have to get us there. There have been times. Can anyone think of, just as a passing thought, before we kind of close up this part, can you think of other people in the Bible who were worried, who are anxious, who are built up over something? I will call on Elena for this one. Elena, what you got? Mary! Oh my gosh. Great answer. 14-year-old. I'm going to have the Savior of the world as a baby. I'm a virgin. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit of cause for anxiety there. Just a little bit. Breathing exercises. Anyone else think of anxious people in the Bible? The disciples. They're freaking out in the boat, right? We know that they were anxious. Who you got?
The guy that was being chased by his best friend's dad.
Yeah. Yeah, King David. King David was getting chased by the former king. That'd be a little cause for anxiety. Sure, Steph had one. You're going to say Moses? Heck yeah. He was so nervous he couldn't talk. He had a stutter. Absolutely. Anyone else nervous people? Elena, more. I would maybe a little bit nervous. Yeah. Go ahead, another one.
The guy who was going to have to sacrifice his son.
Abraham. Yeah, wait for it. Jeremy was just teaching about that, right? About Abraham who was going to have to sacrifice his own son, right? That's a little bit of cause for anxiety. Absolutely. So, isn't that crazy? There's lots of anxious people in the Bible. Yep, that was David again. Yep, David and Goliath. There you go. Oh boy, they're still coming. Keep going.
I don't know the name of him, but the guy, that, what did he do? So Mary was having her baby and the other Mary, and he couldn't talk while his wife was...
Oh yeah! Oh, dagnabbit. It's not Elkanah. What's his name? Zechariah. Zechariah the priest. Yep, he had his mouth shut because he was not believing that his wife was going to have a baby. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good one. That was an oldie right there. Nice job. So there's lots of anxious people in the Bible. Go figure. Who's in the boat with all those people? That'd be God, right? He's with all of them, right? I think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? In the fiery furnace. Do you remember what Nebuchadnezzar said? I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit off topic here. But do you remember what Nebuchadnezzar said and his guards said? They looked into the furnace. Who did they see in the furnace? 4 people. Didn't we put 3 in there? There's a 4th one. And it actually says that it looks like the Son of God. Go look it up. It's actually in the Bible. It's really cool. It was like Jesus pre-Jesus. It was way cool. There's a whole lot of exegesis in there that you can go check it out. But anyways, the last thing I have for you are 3 words. Look up, right? That's God talking to you. Who's in your boat, right? Look inside. We reflect on where God is at work inside of me, in my life, in my boat, right? Look up, look inside, and then look around. Look up, inside, look around. We look at our own anxious world around us so that we can make peace, and then we get to share it. So it says 11:39 right now. We'll see how this time goes. There are some questions that are coming up on the screen for us, and if you guys have your own handouts, it's actually on the back side. This looks a lot bigger than it is. It is not. The bottom half is actually, I call it part 2 of discussion. This is for you to try at home. It works if you work it. I'm going to keep saying it until it kind of sets in. But we're about to break out into some sharing time. There's going to be the guys in the back and some girls and are going to be in the front with the 2 lady leaders because girls and guys don't deal with the same anxiety, right? It's a little different. It'd be a little, I'm not going to go there. Anyways, it's just different, right? Girls deal with different things and guys deal with different things. So you guys are going to have some time to talk about it. You don't have to share, okay? Please know that the leaders and everyone in the room love you, but if you talk about it in confidence at Quest, it's going to stay at Quest, right? And if you're at home, I'm sorry we can't do this all together, but you will see your questions coming up on the screen. Find an adult or find someone that you want to share with in particular. But here are the questions as they come up right now, and I'm going to read them out loud as we're looking at them. You got this next one for me, Jordan? I think there's one hanging out here, and if not, I'm bad. Oh, there we go. So number 1, what's your anxiety level been like these days? High, lower, and in between. 2, what are some things that have made your boat unsteady? Question you've already seen. 3, what are some physical feelings or symptoms, right? We kind of saw that from the video explanation. And then 4, does anyone have a place they go or a strategy they use to calm down? You heard a couple. And then 5, what do you think your anxiety is telling you? And again, when we get into those groups, if you want to say pass, I don't feel like sharing, that's okay too. We're not going to ream you for an answer. Okay, this is just some sharing time. So the guys are going to pick up their chairs and they're going to meet us in the back of the room in a circle, socially distanced again, please and thank you as we're doing that. And the ladies, if you want to move a little closer around, you're more than welcome to. I know it says 11:41 and projected time for Jeremy ending was about 11:48, 11:50 or so. We might get that time, we might not. If we don't, you've got this in front of you, you can do it yourself, okay? This is a tool. It works if you work it. All right, so love you guys. I'll be back at the very end. There's going to be some downtime on the video, just as a heads up. Everyone know what we're doing? Thumbs up, raise your hand if you don't know what we're doing. I can clarify one more time before we split. Okay, dudes in the back, girls in the front. 3, 2, 1, go. Wonderful rest of your week. Thank you guys for sharing. Hold on to these. Use them in the week if you want to, but thank you again for everyone who is online as well. Thank you guys for sharing and for being involved. We love you really big. Have a great rest of your week. Hope you get to use some of this stuff, and we'll catch you next Sunday. Bye, guys.